I want you to do something for me right now. I want you to think about the last time someone truly wronged you. The kind of hurt that sits in your stomach like a cold stone. The betrayal that plays on a loop when you're trying to fall asleep. Got it? Hold that feeling. Now, I'm going to tell you something that might sound like complete nonsense, but it's a neurological fact. The brain cannot distinguish on a chemical level between the act of hating someone else and the act of hating yourself. The same cortisol floods your system, the same neural pathways for self-loathing, and for loathing another person light up in identical patterns. When you hate them, you are, in a very real physical sense, poisoning your own mind and calling it justice. I learned this the hard way. It wasn't from a book or a podcast. It was in the ashes of a friendship I thought was forged in titanium. Her name was Sarah, and for 10 years, she was my person. We built our 20s together, from crappy first apartments to celebrating promotions with cheap champagne. She was the one I called at 2 a.m. when the world felt too heavy. I knew the cadence of her laugh, the story behind every tiny scar on her hands. We shared a language built on a decade of inside jokes and shared survival. Then, over the course of 6 months, it all unraveled. It started with a slow, chilling silence. Texts went unanswered for days. She'd cancel plans at the last minute with vague excuses. I felt it, that subtle shift in the atmosphere, like the pressure drop before a storm. I made excuses for her. She's busy. She's stressed. I'm being too sensitive. The culmination was a professional opportunity, a project I had been dreaming of for years. I told her about it, my voice trembling with excitement. She smiled, a tight, thin line, and said all the right words, but her eyes were empty. A week later, I found out she had gone behind my back, met with the same people, and pitched herself for the role, using my ideas, my blueprint, as her own. She got it. The betrayal wasn't just in the act, it was in the precision of it. She didn't steal from a stranger. She performed surgery on our history and took the part of me I had trusted her with the most. The hatred that bloomed in me was a living thing. It was my first thought in the morning and my last at night. I would be in the grocery store, and the sight of her favorite brand of coffee would send me into a tailspin. I'd be driving and have to pull over because a memory, a happy one, would ambush me and then instantly curdle into this acidic rage. I composed 1,000-word texts to her in my head. I imagined confrontations in public places where I would be eloquent and devastating. I fantasized about her failure, about her realizing the immense cost of what she had done. I was the star, director, and sole audience member of a revenge epic that played 24/7 in the theater of my mind. And I thought this was strength. I thought this fire burning inside me was proof that I mattered, that my pain was valid. I was building a case against her, gathering evidence, polishing my arguments. But here's the truth I was too blind to see. I was building her a home, a sprawling, luxurious mansion right in the center of my consciousness. Every angry thought was a new piece of furniture. Every fantasy of revenge was a fresh coat of paint on the walls. I was the one paying the mortgage on this palace of pain with my time, my focus, and my peace. She was living inside my head, completely rent-free, while I was out in the cold, shivering with rage. I was so busy being a warden of my own prison that I didn't realize I was also the inmate. The energy I was pouring into hating her was energy I was siphoning away from everything that actually mattered to me. My own work began to suffer. My creativity dried up. The things that used to bring me joy, reading, running, cooking a good meal, felt like gray, pointless chores. I was losing myself, and the most tragic part was that I was doing it to myself. She had hurt me once, a deep, clean cut, but I was the one picking at the wound, pouring salt in it every single day, ensuring it would never heal. She made one move on the chessboard, and I proceeded to knock over every other piece, set the board on fire, and then sit in the ashes for a year. The turning point was a Tuesday. Nothing special. I was trying to write, staring at a blank screen, and the only thing in my head was the sound of her voice. And I just broke. Not in a dramatic, crying on the floor way, but in a quiet, terrifying way. I felt hollow. I realized that the person I was becoming, bitter, distracted, joyless, was a far greater loss than the friendship itself. She had taken the project, but I was giving her the rest of my life. I was letting her define me. My identity was slowly solidifying around this single event, the person who was wronged by Sarah. It was a pathetic epitaph. That's when I made the single most powerful decision of my life. It had nothing to do with her. It wasn't about forgiveness. Forgiveness felt too grand, too saintly. And frankly, she hadn't earned it. This was something else. It was an eviction. I decided to stop hating her back. Not for her sake, but for mine. Because my mind, my inner world, was my most valuable kingdom. It was the control room for my entire life. And I had let a hostile force set up camp right in the middle of it. I was allowing a trespasser to direct my emotions, sabotage my focus, and drain my energy. It was the worst kind of mismanagement. So I started the quiet, unglamorous work of reclamation. It wasn't a one-time declaration. It was a daily, hourly practice. It was like training a wild animal, my own mind. A thought of her would appear, and instead of following it down the familiar rabbit hole of rage, I would simply acknowledge it. Ah, there's that thought again. And then I would consciously choose to redirect my attention. I would get up and make a cup of tea. I would open a book and force myself to read one paragraph. I would do 5 push-ups. Anything to break the pattern. It felt absurd at first. It felt like I was letting her win. That's the great lie of hatred. It masquerades as power. Letting go feels like surrender. But I soon realized the opposite was true. Refusing to hate is the ultimate form of dominance. It's emotional mastery. When you hate someone, you are handing them the remote control to your inner state. They press a button from miles away and you jump. They pop into your mind, and your entire day is derailed. You are their puppet, and the strings are made of your own bitterness. When you take that hatred and you simply drop it, you are cutting every single string. You are taking the remote back. You are declaring that your mind is a sacred space, and not just anyone gets to come in and rearrange the furniture. You are saying, you are not important enough to influence my state of being. Your actions do not get to dictate my inner world. This is not weakness. This is not spiritual bypassing or pretending you're not hurt. You can acknowledge the pain, the betrayal, the deep, profound sense of unfairness. Feel it, grieve it, but then you must make a choice. Do you build a shrine to that pain, or do you use it as compost for your future growth? Hatred is a shrine. It's a static, stagnant monument to a past event. Indifference, true, earned indifference, is the fertile ground where new life can grow. It's the soil for your future successes, your peace, your joy. I started to pour all that reclaimed energy back into myself. The energy that used to fuel my internal revenge movies, I now poured into my work. I started a new project, something entirely my own, that she had no connection to. The mental space she used to occupy, I filled with learning a new language. The time I spent obsessing over her social media, I spent on long walks just listening to the world. It was a slow process. Some days I failed miserably. Some days the anger would wash over me like a tidal wave, and I'd let it, and then I'd get back to the work of rebuilding. But with every passing day, her presence in my mind grew fainter. The mansion I built for her started to gather dust. Then, one day, I realized I'd gone a whole week without thinking of her. It was the most profound freedom I had ever felt. Months later, I saw her. It was at a coffee shop across the street. Our eyes met for a second. And the most incredible thing happened. Nothing. No lurch in my stomach. No heat in my face. No frantic scramble for what to do or how to look. I just saw a person I used to know. I felt a distant, quiet pity for the whole situation. But it was like watching a sad scene in a movie about someone else's life. I gave a small, neutral nod and went back to my book. In that moment, I knew I had won. Not against her, but for myself. I had reclaimed my kingdom. She was no longer a resident. She was just a passerby in a town she didn't live in anymore. The ultimate revenge is not making them regret losing you. It's making them completely irrelevant to your happiness. It's watching them from a distance, still tangled in the same petty dramas, while you have built a life so beautiful and so full that their name doesn't even echo in the vast halls of your mind. They become a footnote in your history, not the title of your story. They tried to break you, and instead, you used the pressure to create a diamond. Nothing crushes an enemy more than witnessing you build a magnificent, unassailable fortress of a life. A fortress they can see from a distance but can never ever enter. They are outside, and you are inside. Finally, at peace. Finally free. Your mind is your kingdom. Guard the gates. Be ruthless about who you let in. And if someone has already trespassed, serve them an eviction notice. Not because they deserve your mercy, but because you deserve your peace. Now go build your fortress.